Have you ever read something and just gone, what the This guy's whole thing is killing people in horrifying and painful ways. But his main concern isn't just the killing, it's their eyes.
We have to defend ourselves. I will stab the security guard in the eye with the jumbo chalk.
No, you won't do that. Nope.
Then I'll grind up the jumbo chalk and blow it in his eyes.
Dwight, nothing with the eyes, please?
See the security guard's eyes?
No, don't do anything to them.
I have to do something to his eyes. The eyes are the groin of the
He
head.
eats their eyes with his own mouth eye things. But not just anyone's eyes. Typically, his victims are only young men or boys, and their eyes. Sort of a play on the whole eyes are the windows to the soul thing. Savoring his victims in the most intimate way, experiencing their lives and memories and experiences by eating their eyes. So let me introduce you to your latest nightmare, the Mouth Eye Man. Nope, wait, actually, his name is the Corinthian, a haunting creation of a friend of the channel, whose original comic I'll be reviewing in a few weeks, shared this interesting information about the Corinthian's name and Gaiman's inspiration for it. Essentially, there are a lot of potential influences for calling this guy the Corinthian, from the relation to Greece, to biblical texts addressing that same city, the type of columns, or the marketing gimmick of Corinthian leather in cars.
In the Chrysler tradition of luxury. Yes, even rich Corinthian leather. Chrysler Engineering.
But what some might not know is that there's a use of the term Corinthian relating to essentially amateur sporting motivation, in that you're playing the sport for the love of the game itself. Outside motivations aren't important. It's simply an innate, deep-set desire to perfect and be the best. In the Corinthians' case, killing and keeping motivations pure beyond any kind of sexual satisfaction or gore for the sake of gore. It's loving the process. If you pay for the lovely Netflix subscription fee, you might have seen the Sandman show already, and you might have an idea of who this guy is. He's got the wealthy, suave demeanor, sort of the surface level appeal of Corinthian luxury, masquerading the sinister reality that's underneath all of it. What you also might not know, though, is that that show is pretty cool, and it's based on and adapts some of the best comics that ever came out. And for that first season of the show, the comics that it's based on introduces the original version of the Corinthian. And those comics also freak me the out. Those mouth eye things just ugh. As we get started with the Corinthian, it's important to know that Neil's famous Sandman books are a reimagining of a then dead and forgotten character from years before he hopped on the title. The original Sandman back in the day had a particular classic feel to him, but obviously Neil made this title a whole lot more captivating by giving it this incredible otherworldly feel, dripping with lore and mythos that made it so famous. But it is fun when the original is used or referenced in Neil's run, like in and around the Corinthian's first appearances. The Corinthian first appears in Sandman issue number 10 from 1989, and his arc goes for a few issues after that. We're dropped into the story of Rose Walker, who is in the middle of an interesting arc in her life. Her mother, who is adopted, gets contacted by her birth mother, a very wealthy woman named Unity Kincaid, who lives in England. As Rose and her mother are on their way to England to meet her, Rose falls asleep and into the most interesting of dreams, which is where the layers of the story begin to unfold. Throughout Rose's story, we find out a lot about what's really going on with her. For one, she is this rare biological entity, a dream vortex, which all ties back to Morpheus's past, where he was essentially imprisoned, and during that time, a lot of hell broke loose, causing issues that Dream, or Morpheus, is going to have to fix by going to the waking world. Rose being a key example of a consequence of that time, and that will be important later. One of Dream's creations that broke free during that time was the Corinthian, as well as creatures known as Brute and Glob. The Corinthian is one of the more serious threats to the world of those that escaped, but Brute and Glob have entangled themselves in the life of a boy named Jed, all to use his mind to create a mini kingdom for themselves, apart from their master, Morpheus. So Rose has these dreams. Dream obviously notices these, and there's a cool moment where they see her and address her or us as the reader through the comic panel. As Rose and her mother meet Unity getting off the plane and getting to her, this is where they find out she was basically in a coma for decades, during which time she gave birth to Miranda, Rose's mother, and only recently to then did Unity wake up. Without getting into the weeds, Unity was affected by the sleeping sickness, or the sleepy sickness. We find out later that it was one of the endless ones, Desire, that basically raped Unity while she was in this sleep state, leading to Miranda and then Rose, of course. There's a lot more there, but the point that we need to know for today is that that's how Rose got to be, and thus leads to Rose's search for her brother, Jed. Jed being the same boy that Brute and Glob have parked themselves inside of. All the while, Jed is being kept in a rat-filled basement by some relatives that are taking money from the state to care for him after his father died. Unity helps bankroll the search back in the States, leading Rose all over the place, but she continues to follow what leads she can find. The first of which bring her to stay in a very unique roommate situation in a house in Florida where her brother was last seen. There's a mysterious gentleman that lives at the top and is rarely seen to this point. An eccentric landlord, property manager, and a literal Ken and Barbie. All the while, though, the Corinthian is on his way to a convention. Not your typical Comic-Con or anything. This convention is for cereal. You know, Frosted Flakes, Cookie Crisp, and Cocoa Killers. This is a convention for serial killers, and not your average killers. These are for what are called collectors. Deep, dark, twisted sickos, each with their own speciality and reputation. The Corinthian is a legend in that community, and on his journey to the convention itself, we see exactly why he is. As Rose searches for her brother, embarking on a journey with Gilbert, the guy who lives upstairs, to where Jed might be in Georgia, the Corinthian is taking a stroll through a red light district of sorts. We see him from the point of view of his victims, slowly increasing the horror of this literal nightmare. He takes his time with his victims, savoring their horror and fear, as well as their eyes. As Dream or Morpheus finds Brute and Glob in their maze inside of Jed, all built off the trauma Jed is undergoing by, being stuck in a rat-infested basement, being beaten, sleeping in the dirt, and pissing on walls, Morpheus decides to put an end to all of that, blowing the basement door and part of the wall off so Jed can be free. He also deals with the aftermath of what Brute and Glob developed in Jed's mind, erasing Hector, who was tricked into believing he was the Sandman, and leaving a pregnant Hippolyta, or Lida, disheveled in a particularly rough spot in this basement. Her story is crazy, from being Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor's kid to that being erased, and then her still remembering and going kind of crazy, having her memories erased, and then life in the Dream Dome and being with Hector, while also being stuck in pregnancy because of stasis while in the Dream Dome and all of that. But during all of this, Jed runs outside in the night only to have a car pull up as he walks along the road. The driver asks him which way he's headed. Jed just says he's going anywhere that's away from there. The driver tells Jed to get in, he's headed that way too. And we see that the person driving the car, it's the Corinthian that just picked Jed up. Rose's search leads her to her old in-laws. As Rose learns about the relatives and how Jed used to be at the house, she continues on her search with Gilbert. This leads her to stopping at a hotel, the same hotel that this serial convention is occurring at. A convention for collectors, like I said. Horrifying, murderous collectors. Innocently, Gilbert and Rose stop at this hotel asking for a room. They are told to stay away from the convention business, since they have booked up the hotel specifically for privacy. The Corinthian arrives and fills in for a guest of honor and will be giving a speech later to inspire these collectors. Various collectors are in attendance, like the Doctor, Dog Soup, the Hunter, and the Corinthian, of course. But there's someone going around asking for autographs, asking for conversations, and asking a few too many questions, all at this very private event where they've been told to not partake in their favorite activities while at this event. This same guy who's a little too into everything, he's attending panels like the rest, but just attracting a lot of attention. He goes by the boogeyman in conversation, but come to find out, he isn't the boogeyman. The boogeyman is one of the collectors, but this guy isn't him. The Corinthian asks to speak with him privately in his room. A few of them corner this faker, and even though it's against the rules of the convention, they must do what they do best. They take the Corinthian's car out to a remote location and string up this faker. They take their time. The Corinthian hints at the main point of the collectors, of this cause, of what they do, this crusade that they're sort of on, what makes them all special, which all foreshadows his speech later. He also hints at what he's got in his trunk, which is why they couldn't put Philip, this faker, in the trunk on the way to this tree before killing him very, very slowly. And before Corinthian makes his speech, there's a lot that happens between stringing up Philip and the speech. This collector that helps with registration has an affinity for small, young persons, we'll say. He is overcome by lust and impulse and follows Rose back to her room, violating the rules of this sick convention, of course, but giving in to desire. Gilbert had left briefly and given Rose a name to speak in case of emergency. So as this collector attacks Rose, she desperately scrambles for the paper and barely gets the name out, but she says it, Morpheus. And sure enough, Morpheus appears, telling Nathan Diskin, this very large collector, to let go of her, and sets him to dream. The best dream he's really ever had, but also a little haunting. Morpheus tells Rose to heal, to breathe and heal, then leave the building. He would not see her further troubled. Rose is confused and a bit traumatized from being strangled and all that, but the Corinthian is making his speech now to the collectors, speaking about the American dream, the grandness of what they all do, not killing for money or occupation, not simply as a means to an end, but killing to kill, for the love of the sport, the game, the activity itself, and doing it better and better each time. And there, Morpheus is in the crowd. As he stands, he tells the Corinthian how disappointed he is in him and all these humans that he's inspired now. He was supposed to be a nightmare, one of his created nightmares, to be the darkness and fear of darkness in every human heart. Black mirror made to reflect everything about itself that humanity will not confront. But what has he done with his 40 years on Earth now? Nothing. Just another thing for people to be scared of. The Corinthian lashes back at the Dream Lord, asking, what now then? Is he to return to the dreaming and scar the minds of humans and never know the delights of popping some boy's eyeballs between his teeth?
Disgusting!
Morpheus doesn't even entertain or concern himself with the Corinthian's threat after he continues to ask to fight. He's truly just disappointed in his creation. He admits he made him poorly and he uncreates him right there, down to just a skull. He turns to the crowd of collectors and tells them that they have all brought his judgment on them. He takes away the dream, the delusion of this daydream that they are all in right now, doing what they do as they do. For now and forever, they will know exactly what they are, and they shall know just how little that means, as he tells them all to leave. In the parking lot, Gilbert appears holding an unconscious Jed. He found him sobbing in the trunk of a car, but he's unconscious now. Rose is lost and confused and cold, but they've found Jed. And the Corinthian is no more, at least for then. We would get a few prequels to this story, to back when the Corinthian first killed, and some would come later, even more recently, exploring the Corinthian 2.0, if you will. He is haunted in part by the memories of the original Corinthian and the pleasures of that life, those 40 some odd years that he got to just kill and experience killing and becoming the legend that he was at this point to be at the collector's convention thing. And in some stories, he's more bound to the Dream Lord, and the struggle is his desire to venture out on his own, to play the game, if you will, just to kill and pop some more eyes. Coming up next on the channel is the haunting perfection that is the Plastic Man, the hero that could be the most horrifying villain and just horrifying hero when he wants it to be. So drop a like and subscribe too so you don't miss that, and I'll see you guys in the next one.